Today we're talking about smart TVs, smart speakers, and other home-based smart devices. And in this week's challenge, we discuss your digital privacy. My name is Luke Clayton, and this is Connection Culture. Welcome to the latest episode of Connection Culture. If you haven't yet, I do hope that you'll subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast. I want to give a special shout out this week to subscribing to our YouTube channel. As you have heard me talk before, we're often looking for ways to bypass the algorithms, specifically of Facebook, which doesn't always love the type of content that we're talking about. Now, I will say YouTube is probably not super crazy about it either, but they seem to be a little more kind to our content. So that's why I want to let you know that you can subscribe to our content on YouTube by simply going to youtube.com/mustincrease. When you subscribe, you will be notified every time we drop a new episode or drop a new video at all on our YouTube channel. Again, you can subscribe at youtube.com/mustincrease. Also, the best way to get notified of new episodes and to make sure you never miss our latest content is to sign up for our weekly emails. You can sign up at mustincrease.com/cc to receive every new episode delivered right to your inbox each week. Again, that's mustincrease.com/C. The letter C, sign up there to get free emails every time we release new content. Well, today we are going to discuss smart TVs and also kind of these, what we would call home devices, smart TVs, smart speakers such as Amazon Echo, HomePods from Apple, things like that. We'll get into all of it. And so we're going to start talking about smart TVs. Now, why would you want to get a smart TV? That would be the first question to ask. Well, smart TVs really allow you to connect the large screens of your home, such as in your living room, bedroom, and so forth, to the internet. And the most useful and practical application of smart TVs, and probably the most popular application, is through, of course, streaming content. If it weren't for a smart TV or some type of smart TV add-on, it would not be possible for you to access streaming content from Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, and so on. So this is why smart TVs and these smart TV boxes and accessories, as we'll get to, have become really, really popular in recent years. And I really think that they are fantastic. I am what they would call a cord cutter, and I am proud to say I was one of the early adopters of cutting the cord, meaning that I got rid of cable a long time ago. In fact, from the time that I've been living on my own, there was only about a 6-month period where I had any type of true cable connection to my TV. After that, I got rid of it and went completely internet only. I consider myself, maybe I'm thinking highly of myself than I ought to, but I consider myself to be one of the ones that kind of led the way in cutting the cord. Not that I was leading anyone per se, just an early adopter, if you will. So, but many people have done this at this point. They have gotten rid of their cable altogether, and they are only getting their content by way of streaming, which is why smart TVs and accessories like that have really become more and more common, especially in the past few years. So let's talk about a few of the different, smart TVs and accessories that you can get. Well, there are many TVs now that have this smart capability, the ability to directly connect to the internet. They have it built in. In fact, it would be pretty difficult to find. They would definitely be in the minority nowadays of TVs that do not have essentially wireless internet access built in and have this smart TV functionality. Now, they've gotten better over the years, but I have at this point, it's a few years old, smart TV. It's a Vizio. I was never very impressed with the built-in smart TV functionality. It's very glitchy. It's very slow. And again, they've gotten better over the years, but I am just not crazy about the smart TVs that have it directly built in. But the nice thing about it is that if you want to be ready to go with streaming, most TVs now, like I said, are technically smart TVs. You can access the streaming content directly from the interface of the television itself. And so you don't have to necessarily buy any additional accessories. However, if you want a better experience and maybe a more expansive experience, that's when you want to look into getting some type of accessory like a box, a smart TV box, or dongle to plug in, such as a Roku. Now, I've used Roku very little. In fact, I think the only time I've used a Roku is the couple of times I've gone out of town to like an Airbnb and they happen to have Roku connected to the TV there. So I have used it in that application, and my experience with it is good. And from what I understand, it does get pretty good reviews, and it's pretty affordable. Roku has a good corner on this market, so I can't really say anything positive or negative about Roku, other than, like I said, I've had a good experience, and I haven't heard anything particularly horrible. Now, when it comes to the Amazon Fire TV and Fire TV Stick, I also understand that these are potentially an affordable smart TV plug-in solution. But again, I can't really speak to it. So when it comes to Roku and Amazon, I really can't give much input on that as far as their smart TV devices in particular, just because I haven't used them or haven't used them all that much. Now, Chromecast, on the other hand, is something I'm very familiar with. In fact, one of the televisions in my home has a Chromecast so that I can stream content from my phone or iPad or mobile device to my TV. And this is pretty much the extent of what a Chromecast does. Now, I say recently, in the past year, Chromecast has released a upgraded version called Chromecast with Google TV that actually comes with a little remote. And so it kind of functions more like a standalone smart TV, which we'll talk about the difference here in just a moment. But the Chromecast, as far as the base model Chromecast, it's very affordable. It's $30, $35. Many times you can find it for cheaper than that when you shop the right sources. And again, it allows you to stream just about any content from your device to your TV. Now, I did say just about any. You can stream the popular apps, Netflix, again, Hulu, Amazon Prime, YouTube. Trying to think of other ones that I've used with it, the new Paramount Plus. All of these I know for a fact work with it. However, the one source, I should say, that you cannot stream to Chromecast is anything that is native to Apple. So Apple TV Plus, anything you were to purchase from Apple's on-demand catalog, that's not going to be compatible with streaming to a Chromecast. For most people, this isn't necessarily a deal breaker, might be an inconvenience at time. And for me, maybe it is every once in a while. But for the most part, the Chromecast, again, it's a really affordable option if you're simply looking to stream content from your phone to the bigger screen in your bedroom, living room, wherever it may be. Now, Apple TV is going to be the most expensive option out there. Now, I just said Apple TV, and then there's Apple TV Plus. Now, Apple has really kind of a little bit mucked up their branding to some extent in terms of it could be a little bit confusing because Apple TV is hardware, but Apple TV Plus is software, and they also have an Apple TV app that works on your Apple TV, but also on your phone and your iPad. So again, it's kind of unclear to some maybe that are just not as up to date with Apple like myself or others. And so for that reason, I want to just clarify what the difference is. Apple TV Plus is Apple's version of a streaming subscription service, and then Apple TV itself is Apple's app where you can watch TV, but then they also have an Apple TV piece of hardware. It's a little black box that's a smart TV component, plugs via HDMI into your TV like other streaming boxes do, and allows you to access the content that I talked about. The nice thing about Apple TV, which is not exclusive to it, but the nice thing is that it does have it has an app store, and which again, that's not exclusive. These other devices also have ways to get apps, but with Apple TV, you can use App Store. A lot of the same apps that you have on your phone are also on your Apple TV. You can, if you download, if you have automatic app downloads turned on, if you download an app to Apple TV, or rather to your phone, it will also download to your Apple TV if there's a compatible one available. So, kind of nice perks like that. Of course, again, it's gonna feel very familiar if you're used to Apple devices at all. In terms of if you have an iPhone, an iPad, it's going to feel very familiar, and it is a overall good experience. And yes, as you know, I usually always tend to go with Apple stuff, but it's like I say many times, it's hard to argue that Apple stuff, while it can tend to be more expensive, it is a hard argument to say that it is or what am I trying to say? It's a hard argument to argue against, rather. That's what I'm trying to say, that Apple TV and Apple products in general are not just excellent when it comes to quality. So, and admittedly, I am not near as into the smart TV world as far as studying it out and figuring it out as I would be maybe with computers or mobile devices. But in my experience, Apple TV has been a very reliable product, and it's got a nice streamlined interface. But again, it's going to be the most expensive. So I would say, if you're going to just now, if you say, I don't have anything like this yet, I don't have any of these, I would say start with a Chromecast, because it's going to work with, like I said, with some exception, it works with just about any streaming service, and it's very easy to set up and easy to use. But you may say, well, no, I think others are better, and there's probably somebody out there who you're like, you actually know more about, for example, Amazon Fire TV or Roku than me. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Feel free to drop me a comment and let me know why I am wrong, or why your opinion is that I'm wrong. All right, moving on. Let's talk about other smart home devices, and mainly talking about things like, for example, smart bulbs. So these are actually light bulbs that are considered smart. They can connect to the internet. You plug them into your lamp or whatever, and they change colors, they dim, they can automatically turn on and off. You can control them from your phone. I've experimented with one of these before, and admittedly, I kind of got a cheap one, and so it wasn't the best experience in terms of quality, but that's just because I wanted to experiment with it. Overall, the concept, though, I think is really cool. And then also smart switches are the same. So this is the same idea, except for this is where you actually replace your light switch with what they call a smart switch, and you can still flip it on and off just like the olden days, but it also connects to, like I said, your phone, and you can now network control your lights, fans, and other things. And then one of the most useful of these type of smart accessories is the smart plugs. So these are literally just little plugs that you plug them into the wall, and then you plug anything you want into it: lights, coffee makers, waffle makers, griddles. I mean, these are the kind of stuff I have plugged into these before. And now you can control them. Basically anything that requires power, you can now turn on and off and control from your phone and by way of the internet, or because the technology here is, again, it connects to a wireless internet, to your wireless network, so your Wi-Fi, and now it allows you to control your devices from your phone, or even with your voice when you couple it with a smart speaker, which moves on to talking about the next type of smart device, or smart home device, I should say, and that is the smart speakers. Now, there are several of these at this point, but I'm just going to talk about the three major ones from Google, Amazon, and Apple, of course. With Google, their Google Home smart speakers, I've never used it. Don't know a thing about it. Could not give you a review one way or the other. So again, you Google people out there, let me know what you think, because I don't got anything to say about it. Apple HomePod is one that I do have experience with. In fact, I have two Apple HomePod minis in my home, and they are great because they work best with other Apple stuff. And again, just like most things Apple, everything really does more or less just work. You plug them in. The setup process is incredibly simple. You just bring your phone close to it. It automatically sets it up and detects it and all that stuff. It's very, very simple and streamlined to set up. And it works really good with Apple stuff. Again, you can control it from your phone. And for those of you who maybe are saying, well, what is a smart speaker? I probably should have explained what that is first. What a smart speaker is basically a little speaker that sits somewhere in your home, and you give it vocal commands to say, hey, tell me what the weather is, or hey, and I'm not going to say the names because I don't want to activate all of the smart speakers out there, but you say the what they call the wake word, which many times is something to the effect of it rhymes with Malexa or Smeary. So you say the wake word, and then the device listens for what you're asking for. So you can say, "What's the weather?" You can ask questions like, if you have everything connected, you could say, "What's traffic like? What's my commute to work?" You can say, "Hey, what's the latest news? Hey, who won this sports game?" You can ask them it's almost like having a Google search, but by your voice. And you can ask them just about anything. And also, when you connect it with these smart accessories, now you can begin to control your home. So it's going to, so now you can control your home and these devices. So in the case of an Apple HomePod, it works really good with your Apple accessories and Apple stuff. And I have many of these smart outlets actually, that it actually all works really, really good together. I really am very happy. In fact, the only issues I ever have with all my accessories is many times it's related to the internet itself, not the devices. The Apple HomePod, it works well with these other devices. The sound quality is good. Now, probably the most popular one out there is the Amazon Echo, because they kind of did it first, or at least they did it first in a popular way by introducing the Amazon Echo. And yes, this is the one that rhymes with Alexa. And they have the Amazon Echo, the Echo Dot, the Echo Show. They have many, many variations of it at this point. And I will say, when it comes to the Amazon Echo line, in my experience, I have both. I have the HomePods, and I also have an Echo Dot. And I do use them both probably about equally. The Amazon Echo, while its sound quality isn't as great as the Apple HomePod, and it doesn't connect, everything that connects with the HomePod won't connect to the Echo, and all that stuff. I will say the voice control does seem to be better than it is on the HomePod in terms of just being that lady that begins with an A. She seems to be more responsive than the Siri lady over on Apple. And so, of course, I guess now I'm being bigoted because there are many variations of voices you can get, male and female and whatnot. So cancel mob, come get me. Because I am canceled now at this point. Nonetheless, the Echo does seem to be the better voice assistant overall, but to me, the capabilities are pretty limited. And so, that's why at the end of the day, I do prefer the HomePod, but the Echo Dot is really good. And the Echo Dot in particular is really good for the price. Now, the main concern with these devices is your privacy. And I'm going to talk about that more here in our challenge in just a moment. But I do want to let you know that there are practical ways on these devices, at least on the Echo and the HomePod. Again, I've never used Google, so I couldn't speak to this. I've never used their Google speakers. But on the Alexa side of things, the Amazon Echo, if you go into, it requires an app to set up. If you get the Alexa app and you've got it set up, you go to the More tab, Settings, Account, Amazon Sidewalk. So that's Alexa app, More, Settings, Account, Amazon Sidewalk. Just kind of follow the prompts here. Look for each of these little sections. You want to turn Amazon Sidewalk off. I'm not going to go into the detail of what this is, but this is basically, Amazon actually is somewhat transparent in telling you what it is. Basically, this shares your network with potentially third-party people that you may not want it to be shared with. So I have turned off Amazon Sidewalk. You also want to go, while you're there in the settings, you want to go over to Alexa Privacy, and you want to definitely go in and make sure you understand. Again, Amazon is somewhat transparent in what they're doing with your voice data, but you actually have the option to turn off all of any recording, saving, or sharing that they're doing with your voice. Because here is my concern is that, of course, it's kind of this always on speaker. And, I'm not really crazy about other people just hearing a conversation I'm having in my home. Not to say I'm saying anything I shouldn't say or whatever. It's just nobody's business. On the iOS side of things, or on the HomePod side of things, if you go on the iOS and you go to the Home app, select your HomePod, scroll down to Settings, go to Analytics and Improvement, and you can go to Share HomeBot Analytics and Improve Siri and Dictation. You could turn both of these off so that your data is not shared with Apple. Now, I understand that, and I'm not so naive to believe that just because you turn these settings off means that you're completely protected in terms of your privacy, which kind of leads me to the weekly challenge. And that's this. We need to protect our privacy, but we really need to understand what that means. One of the greatest ironies to me is that in our digital era, there's this constant outrage about privacy violations from the same people that seem to be ready and willing to share anything and everything about their personal lives online. So in the early years of social media and the internet, it's understandable that many of us didn't really understand all the ins and outs of the World Wide Web. And therefore, maybe we could plead ignorance when we found out that these tech companies were, we found out what they were doing with what's supposed to be our private and personal data. But fast forward to now, where social media has been a big part of our lives for over a decade, and the internet has been around for over 20 years. This same plea of ignorance, it doesn't fly. I'm going to call foul on that. By now, if the reality hasn't dawned on you that the companies that make your phone, your computer, and these other smart devices, if the reality that these same companies are not also tracking your personal data and information, then I would argue that your ignorance is willful, and it's actually not truly ignorance at all. It's a couple of different things. It's blindness and it's blame shifting. It's blindness because you have refused to acknowledge that the days of true and complete privacy, they're long gone. And the only way for you to get it back is to get rid of these devices that are a lot of times more dear to us than any of us would like to confess. And then because minus an apocalypse level event, the eradication of technology from our future is impossible. And minus your own willingness to destroy your phone and live in a primitive cabin somewhere out in the deep woods, technology is going to be a part of your life forever. Now, I wouldn't dare seek to shame you or anyone for not being willing to do this, because as I've said before, I host 2 podcasts centered on media and technology. I take full advantage of the modern convenience of our day, so I'm a big fan and proponent of technology. It's here to stay. We have to learn to live with it and, of course, use it for good. But when it comes to the matter of privacy in particular, we do ask this question, well, what should we do? What can we do to protect the personal information of ourselves and our family? Well, in addition to the practical steps like making adjustments to the privacy settings that I talked about earlier on your devices, the best we can do is avoid this second core issue. I said blindness, but also blame shifting. Most of society wants to hold Facebook and these other platforms responsible for the words and actions of individuals. They want to hold the corporation responsible for the individuals. They just want someone to blame. They want someone to blame for the shared opinions the opinions that get shared online that they don't agree with. And they even don't want to be blamed for some of their own words that may have been irresponsible. They want the freedom to tweet and post whatever they want without facing the consequences later. Now, look, I'm definitely not a fan of cancel culture, not in the slightest, but I do believe our society by and large needs to learn once again to accept personal responsibility and maybe exercise some wisdom and discernment when it comes to what they post on social media and how they interact online in general. Now more than ever, what you say and what you do could and likely will leave a lasting impression through your digital footprint. And that impression will either have a positive or a negative effect on the future of both yourself and others. So just be responsible. Be wise. Think twice before you post or even before you reply to that email or text that offended you. At the same time, be bold. Be bold to share the truth, to proclaim what you believe, but always do so in a way that's gracious, without a spirit of arrogance or anger. And for some out there, it may not hurt to just not post at all, at least for a while. Now, look, is big tech invading our privacy? Yeah, you bet it is. But you're not allowed to be shocked and outraged by that anymore. You want to live off the grid? Go for it. For the rest of us who choose to continue living in the world as we know it and have known it now for many, many years, We need to be responsible for our own words and actions, and let this lack of privacy serve as a further motivation to be wise and do the right thing. Connection Culture is a production of the Must Increase Network. You can learn more about Must Increase and what we do for families and churches at mustincrease.com. You know, I want to leave you with this challenge as we think about this privacy stuff, as we think about doing the right stuff and doing the right thing and the best thing and the wise thing with what we do online. We really need to be getting behind what we believe in. We need to be supporting the things that matter. That's why it really means a lot when you share, because when you do, you're playing a small but significant role in sharing and getting behind content that you believe in. Because you're going to find that it's so much more fulfilling to be a meaningful, creative contributor than it is to be just a mindless, constant consumer. I'll see you next time right here on Connection Culture.